Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. And if you've never watched before, then thank you for checking this out. I love doing baby names videos, so you will find quite a few of them on my channel. Today I'm going to be chatting about vintage, cool, sort of retro baby boy names. I did do vintage baby girl names last week, so if you want to check that out, I will link it in the comment section below or in the description below. And today I'm going to talk about baby boy names that are kind of like coming back into fashion. I wanted to tell you my top 10 or 10 that I think are really cool at the moment, and some that I find a little bit more unusual because you have lots of the common ones like James and William, which are lovely names, but you hear them a lot, so I thought I'd try and choose some that are a little bit different. Okay, let's get straight into this. So the first name is the name Ellis. E-L-L-I-S. I really love this name for a boy, and it's actually the Greek form of the Hebrew name Elijah, and it means my God is Jehovah. And I just think it sounds a really cool name. It's a name that, yeah, was more popular back in like the late 19th century. Then you didn't hear about it as much, but recently there have been more and more Ellises about, and I think it's just something a little bit different. People will know the name, so it's not really bizarre or weird, but it's also not that common, so I really like the name Ellis. Next is the name Theodore. Now I have mentioned before the name Theo because I really love it, but you could go for the full name rather than just shortening it to Theo. You could have the full thing, Theodore. And it is also a Greek name, and it means God's gift. And of course, one of the most famous Theodores would be the former US President Theodore Roosevelt, and he was born in 1858. Just checking my stats, yes, he was born in 1858. So obviously Theodore was quite a popular name around then, around the mid 1800s, but it is now coming back. You could maybe even shorten it to Teddy as well if you went for Theodore rather than shortening it to Theo. Next is the name Albie, which you could spell with either a Y or an IE, whichever one you want, and it's kind of a shortened version of Albert. So maybe you do like the name Albert, but personally I prefer it as Albie. I think it is just a very cute name, and the name means bright or brilliant, which I think is a really lovely meaning. And I guess the most famous Albert, I don't know if he was called Albie by his friends, but he may have been, was Albert Einstein, and he was born in 1879, so it is a sort of time around that time the name Albert was popular. So you could go for the name Albert and then maybe just shorten it to Albie if you wanted, but I quite like just Albie on its own. Next, it's the name Otis, and it's actually a German name and it means wealthy. So if you want your child to be rich, maybe go for the name Otis. It kind of did seem to be known before as like a grandpa name, or that's how I would have seen it, but it recently has become very cool, partly maybe because the lovely Olivia Wilde and her partner Jason Sudeikis, hopefully I pronounced that right, they called their little boy Otis. And yeah, recently I have heard it more and more, and it is definitely becoming slightly like quite a cool name now rather than just a grandpa name. Next, it's the name Sydney. You could spell it either S-I-D-N-E-Y, or you could, if you wanted to make it a little bit more modern, a bit more cool, you could spell it with a Y, like obviously Sydney in Australia. But the version S-I-D-N-E-Y, it is actually an English name, and it means wide island or south of the water. It actually started as like a surname, but throughout the early 19th century it became used more as a first name as well. It can also be used as a girl's name, and recently it's become more popular as a girl's name as well. So maybe you like Sydney for a girl more. Maybe you want to shorten it to Sid. I think Sid's very cute as well. Yeah, maybe you like the name Sydney for a girl or a boy. Next, it's the name Archie, which I think is so cute. I could imagine a little boy called Archie. It is a shortened version of the name Archibald. I wouldn't probably recommend the name Archibald for your child, but maybe you want to go with Archibald, but I would prefer just having Archie on its own. It's much cuter, very sweet. And yeah, in the 1880s it was actually the 87th most popular name, so Archie on its own, not the full Archibald. And I know that Dolly Bobo, the vlogger Kate Murnane, her little boy is called Archie. I just think it is a very sweet name, so I really like Archie. Next, it's the name Silas, and it has become more popular in the last couple of years because of Justin Timberlake and Jessica Biel, because they called their little boy Silas. And whenever I first heard they called their son Silas, I was a bit like, what? Not sure about that name, but it's kind of becoming now more popular, more cool, and I'm starting to like it more. I quite like S names. Both my girls' names begin with S, so I'm looking at boys' names beginning with S, so I'm starting to sort of think about them more. And I guess Silas actually is now, it was quite an old-fashioned name, but it's becoming a bit more modern, more popular, more cool now, and it means forest or from the forest, so it's not the most exciting meaning, but maybe if you live in the forest, then Silas will work for you. Next, it's a name which initially I thought was quite a modern name, but actually the more I've been looking into it, the more I've realised actually it was popular a couple of 100 years ago, and that is the name Calvin. And you may have heard of it obviously because of Calvin Harris, the DJ, although he wasn't born Calvin. I've totally forgotten what he was actually born. I'll maybe put it down below in the comment section, or maybe you can think of it and you want to leave it below. Yeah, because Calvin Harris was not born Calvin Harris. He has a less interesting name, so I'll try and find out what that is. But yeah, I really like the name Calvin, and actually yeah, it was popular back in the 1800s. I didn't know this until I was doing a bit of research recently. It was actually the 115th most popular boy's name in 1880. So there you go, there's a little fact for you. It also means little bald one. So if your child is born and they're a little bald one, maybe you'll be like, right, Calvin is the name for him. Ninth on my list is the name Montgomery. If you want quite a kind of posh stand-up name, then Montgomery might be the one for you. It was originally a surname, it's an English name, and a lot of the English and Scottish earls had Montgomery as their surname, and as with many of the other names I've mentioned in this, it kind of went from being a surname to then becoming a first name, and a lot of people shorten it to Monty as well, and I think that's very cute for a little boy, calling them Monty. Recently actually, Jerry Halliwell, her little boy that she had very recently, she called him Montgomery but shortens it to Monty. So maybe you like that name, you can go with the full thing, or maybe just go with Monty, but I quite like it Montgomery for when they're a bit older, and Monty I guess when they're a little one. And finally on my list of vintage baby boy names stroke retro cool names is the name Everett, and it means wild boar or strong, and it was popular in the late 1800s and early 1900s. It's also obviously the surname of Rupert Everett, so if you're a fan of him or his movies, then maybe you like the name Everett. I just think it sounds quite a cool name, and it sounds quite modern now, even though it's actually quite an old-fashioned name. So those are just some of my favorite vintage baby boy names, and ones that I think are really coming back now and are becoming more popular. They're also ones that aren't the sort of typical normal old-fashioned names, that they're maybe a little bit different. So if you're looking for something a little bit more unique, then maybe one of those takes your fancy. Hope you enjoyed this video. As always, please let me know which of these names are your favorite, if you liked any of them, or if you hated them, which ones you hated, or if any of your children are called them, then please leave those below. I'll be back very soon with another baby names video. They're going to go up every Wednesday, so check those out if you are interested in baby names. I will have other videos going up on a Sunday as well, so also check those out. And please don't forget to subscribe, it would mean a lot, and I'll be back very soon. Okay, bye.